Ever wonder why some people turn bright red after one sip of sake, while others can down bottles without changing color? The answer might be protecting them from one of history's deadliest diseases. You're at a bar with friends, and someone orders a round of drinks. Within minutes, one person's face is glowing like a stoplight. Everyone jokes about it. Maybe someone mentions Asian flush or alcohol intolerance, and the night goes on. But what if that embarrassing reaction is actually a genetic superpower in disguise? Here's the thing. That flush isn't just about looking like a tomato at social gatherings. It's the visible sign of a gene mutation called ALDH, 2x2, carried by roughly 540 million people worldwide, mostly of East Asian descent. When you drink alcohol, your body breaks it down into acetaldehyde, a toxic compound that's supposed to get quickly converted into harmless stuff by an enzyme called ALDH2. But if you've got this mutation, that enzyme is essentially broken. So acetaldehyde just hangs around in your bloodstream, causing your face to flush, your heart to race, and making you feel generally terrible. It's nature's way of screaming, "Stop drinking!" Most people assume this is purely a disadvantage, a genetic short straw that makes happy hour miserable. But what if evolution had other plans? Imagine you're living a few thousand years ago in a region where tuberculosis is rampant, claiming lives left and right. You need every advantage you can get. Now picture this. The same toxic buildup that ruins your relationship with alcohol might actually be killing the bacteria trying to kill you. Sounds like a fair trade, right? Scientists have started connecting some very interesting dots. Acetaldehyde, that nasty compound responsible for your red face, is actually pretty good at one thing, being toxic. And bacteria, including the one that causes TB, really don't like toxic environments. The hypothesis goes like this. If your body naturally accumulates more acetaldehyde because your ALDH2 enzyme is defective, you might have a built-in defense mechanism against certain infections. This isn't just wild speculation based on a hunch. Researchers have been looking at population data, disease patterns, and geographic distributions. Tuberculosis has been a massive selective pressure in human history, killing more people than perhaps any other infectious disease. Evolution doesn't care about your social life, it cares about survival and reproduction. The irony is almost poetic. For decades, people with ALDH, 2x2, have been told they're more susceptible to certain cancers if they drink, more likely to have alcohol-related health problems, basically given a list of reasons why this mutation is bad news. Meanwhile, evolution might have been playing the long game, trading one vulnerability for protection against an ancient killer. Who's laughing now? Let's break down what's actually happening inside your cells. When tuberculosis bacteria invade, your immune system scrambles to fight back. But these bacteria are sneaky. They've evolved ways to survive inside your own immune cells, essentially hijacking the very system meant to destroy them. What if elevated acetaldehyde levels create an environment where these bacteria struggle to survive, even inside their cellular hideouts? The mutation became incredibly common in East Asian populations for a reason. Genetic changes don't spread to 30–50% of a population by accident. Natural selection had to favor this trait, pushing it through generations, despite the obvious downsides. The geographic overlap between high ALDH, 2x2 prevalence, and historical TB hotspots isn't just coincidence. You might be thinking, wait, so getting drunk could prevent tuberculosis? Absolutely not. The protective effect, if it exists, comes from the baseline levels of acetaldehyde your body produces naturally with the mutation, not from drowning yourself in vodka. In fact, drinking with this mutation is particularly dangerous because you're piling even more acetaldehyde onto an already compromised system. Here's where it gets even weirder. Some researchers are now exploring whether this genetic insight could lead to new tuberculosis treatments. What if we could harness the acetaldehyde effect in people without the mutation? What if there's a way to create that toxic environment for bacteria without the cancer risk and other downsides? Science fiction starts to look like science fact. The contrast is almost absurd when you think about it. Modern medicine spends billions developing complex antibiotics, intricate treatment regimens, and sophisticated vaccines. Meanwhile, evolution might have stumbled onto a solution millions of years ago. Make your body slightly poisonous to invaders by being slightly poisonous to yourself. It's the biological equivalent of scorched earth policy. But let's pump the brakes on declaring this a miracle mutation. The protective effect against TB, if confirmed, has to be weighed against increased risks of esophageal cancer, alcohol dependency issues, and other health problems associated with ALDH 2x2. Evolution doesn't optimize for your happiness or longevity. It optimizes for reproductive success in the environment where the mutation emerged. Consider the real-world implications playing out right now. In regions where both the mutation and TB are common, doctors might need to rethink screening strategies, prevention approaches, and treatment protocols. Public health campaigns about alcohol consumption might need to account for this genetic variability. The simple narrative of Asian flush equals bad starts to crack apart. The research is ongoing, and scientists are still piecing together exactly how strong this protective effect might be. Early studies show promise, but correlation isn't causation, and population genetics is messy. There could be other factors at play, other genes interacting, environmental variables we haven't considered. The story is still being written. What's undeniable is the broader principle at work here. Genetic variations we've labeled as purely negative might have hidden benefits we're only beginning to understand. Sickle cell trait protects against malaria. Cystic fibrosis carriers may have had cholera resistance. Evolution is full of these trade-offs, these compromises between different selective pressures. Fast forward to today's world, where tuberculosis still kills over 1 million people annually, despite being theoretically curable. We've got antibiotics, but drug-resistant strains are emerging. We've got vaccines, but they're not perfect. Maybe there's something to learn from how our ancestors' bodies adapted to fight this disease naturally, even if that adaptation came with a social cost at the sake bar. The ultimate irony? People with ALDH 2x2 might have avoided deadly infections throughout history, survived long enough to reproduce, passed on their genes, all while probably never touching alcohol anyway because it made them feel terrible. The protective effect didn't require drinking, just existing with the mutation was enough. Evolution playing 4D chess while we're stuck playing checkers? Picture yourself as a researcher trying to explain this to the public. Hey, that embarrassing thing that happens when you drink, it might have saved your ancestors from tuberculosis. It sounds like you're making it up, like you're trying to put a positive spin on something objectively annoying. But the data keeps pointing in this direction, and science doesn't care about our assumptions. There's also a cautionary tale buried in here about genetic determinism and oversimplification. Not everyone with ALDH 2x2 is protected from TB, and not everyone without it is vulnerable. Genetics loads the gun, but environment pulls the trigger. Your genes interact with your diet, your exposure to pathogens, your overall health, your access to medical care. Biology is never as simple as a single mutation. Looking ahead, this research could reshape how we think about personalized medicine. Imagine genetic screening that doesn't just warn you about disease risks, but also reveals hidden resistances, unexpected advantages coded into your DNA. The mutation that ruins happy hour might be the same one that keeps you healthy in other ways we haven't even discovered yet. Some scientists argue we should be studying these population-level genetic variations more carefully, looking for other examples of seeming disadvantages that might have protective effects. Every mutation exists in a context, shaped by the selective pressures of the environment where it emerged. What looks bad in one context might be beneficial in another. The debate continues in research labs and medical journals. Some teams are running experiments on cell cultures, exposing bacteria to acetaldehyde, measuring survival rates. Others are digging through historical records, tracking disease patterns across populations with different ALDH2 variants. The truth will emerge from data, not speculation, but the preliminary findings are tantalizing enough to keep people digging. Meanwhile, millions of people with ALDH 2x2 go about their lives, probably unaware that their genetic makeup might represent an ancient evolutionary strategy against infectious disease. They avoid alcohol because it makes them feel awful, never suspecting that same mechanism could be protecting them in ways they can't see or feel. Biology works in mysterious ways. Here's the kicker. If this protection is real, it suggests that evolution was willing to sacrifice pleasant drinking experiences for better survival against tuberculosis. Think about that priority system. Nature doesn't care if you can't enjoy a beer with friends. It cares if you live long enough to have kids. It's brutal, efficient, and completely indifferent to your social calendar. As we continue untangling the complex web of human genetics, we keep finding these surprises. Traits we dismissed as purely negative turn out to have hidden depths, unexpected benefits, evolutionary logic that only makes sense when you zoom out and look at the bigger picture across thousands of years and millions of people. That embarrassing flush might just be your body's way of saying it's playing the long game. And in the endless war between humans and infectious disease, sometimes the weirdest weapons turn out to be the most effective.